How do you deal with Pharah Mercy? Pharah Mercy in specific is going to be very annoying for a lot of players. And when you're playing Genji, Genji is not a hit scan. And player base in general thinks if the enemy team is playing Pharah Mercy, you need to go for a hit scan to counter the Pharah Mercy. But there are a lot of things to be considered about this matchup. And one of them, or quickly want to address this hit scan points. A lot of people think that, okay, you just pick hit scan, so you pick Widow, you pick Ashe, you pick Soldier, you pick Cassidy, right? And then that way, you get to deal with the Pharah Mercy. But the thing is, Pharah Mercy is two characters, a DPS and then the pocket support, right? But a lot of players don't consider that. And they think, no, the solo Cassidy is going to not only deal with the Tracer on the ground, but also deal with the Pharah Mercy on the sky. So the poor solo Cassidy is trying to 1v3 basically. And if they don't do it, they get flamed. When it's not really their fault that they're not gonna manage to do that. Ideally, you give your counter hit scan a pocket, or you have two hit scans. But the pocket is ideal, right? You counter a pocket with a pocket of your own. Going back to Genji, Genji can deal with Pharah Mercy in a few different ways. First is the direct one, right? You go to the sky and you eliminate them. Not really likely. However, there are some things that are gonna increase your success rate. If you are on the ground and the Pharah Mercy is in the sky, and then you dash up and you try to do something about it, you're gonna have very little airtime. Now, if you climb up to something that is very high, then you use that position to stage a dive on her, now you're going to manage to have more airtime. Because not only were you closer before, you were also already in a higher position. So you might be able to do something like animation cancel a shot, like secondary fire dash, have dash land, have the secondary fire land for good damage, then you can turn around, shoot more, double jump, shoot more, and then maybe even get a third shot off after your dash. So maybe you have the potential of 4 shots plus the dash to deal damage to the Pharah. So that would be ideal. And I even have a clip that I can show here. Another thing to consider is who to go first, the Pharah or the Mercy. And I would say a lot of the times, yes, you would think that going for the Mercy is better because she's the support and she can also res, but it's not as realistic as the Pharah. The Pharah, yes, she has some mid-air movements, but her hitbox is very big and her movements aren't fast like Echo. She has the burst of mobility upwards, and she can have a little bit of burst of mobility horizontally with the concussion blast. But that's it. If you keep those in mind and track those cooldowns, she's going to be usually a better target because if you're trying to kill the Pharah, you're probably going to need to kill her fast because you don't have infinite airtime like she does, right? You can only stall in there for so long. Meanwhile, the Mercy has very frequent high bursts of mobility, so it can be hard to go for her, but there are situations where you can go for her. Maybe she's gliding in the sky in a very predictable pattern, so you use a primary fire, you lead 3 shots, spot on, then you dash, then you quickly turn and go for a finish with secondary fire melee before she gets to move really and dodge you. That can be something that you do. I would say that one of the more realistic approaches for you to actually kill the Pharah as Genji is with Blade. Because if you properly consider her cooldowns and you properly position yourself and set up, then 2 swings and a dash should kill. Maybe you're going to have to set up for 3 swings, but I really doubt it. You probably need to set up to try to kill her with maximum of 2 swings, a dash, and maybe a little bit of damage beforehand. With maybe a shot that your animation cancel with a dash, or something very specific like a dash combo, right? So you set yourself up in the high ground, you dash to her, you buffer your secondary fire melee, and you cancel those animations with your blade. Then you get to deal a burst of, I believe it's 161 damage. Instantly pull out the blade, she panics, use cooldowns, then you use the double jump to stall in the air, you use the dash to follow her movement, and then you swing to finish, right? That can be a way. Or you just set yourself up so that you can follow her, or you go high in the air with the dash, then you blade, then you dash to follow or to reach her, swing once, double jump to stay in the air, swing again and kill her. But then you have to consider if she's getting pocketed or not in that specific scenario. You should also consider if you're going for the Pharah or the Mercy first, right? But a lot of the times, two most important things when trying to kill the Pharah Mercy is the setup and not actually the execution. Although, yes, the execution matters, it doesn't matter how good you are mechanically if you are 50 meters away from each other, right? She's in the skybox and you're in the ground. You need to be in a position where you're close enough to actually be able to go for the play, and you also a lot of the times need a little bit of early damage to actually make that play viable. Otherwise you're relying on way too many headshots or an insanely fast blade that it's not realistic for any player. Damage boosts do change things, but you have to consider which damage boost, right? She can still outplay you with something like cooldowns. So if you dash and then she boops you away, then boom, that's it. You're not gonna get to reach her anymore because you burned your dash. Also, if you have not as big of a damage boost, so let's say you have Mercy damage boost, and you dash the Pharah, and the Mercy is healing instead of damage boosting, you're not getting the kill. Because someone that is getting Mercy pocketed by, or I think it's any sort of healing actually. Any sort of healing, I believe, for anyone, when you were trying to blade with damage boost, is basically going to be the same challenge as killing someone through Transcendence because of the breakpoints, because of the amount of damage that you're gonna deal. So you're going to be forced to do a swing dash animation cancel. You can't do the dash and then the swing because the damage instances are way too far apart from each other. So you're going to have to do the swing dash if you're trying to go for the Pharah. So in a scenario like that, it might be better to either go for the Mercy first, and then you can have the breakpoints. But a lot of the times, I think it's better to simply not try to go for the breakpoint and set yourself up for two swings. Because either you can't trust that your Mercy is going to actually properly follow you and damage boost you, or trying to go for the swing dash animation cancel is too challenging, or going for the Mercy when she didn't burn her Garden Angel is not realistic. So there are a lot of very niche things that you have to consider that make going for that quick burst with stuff that is below nano as far as damage boost goes very weird. But it can happen. You can go ahead and use the damage boost and just true tap the Pharah Mercy with swing dash or dash swing. It can happen. You just gotta, I would say one of the most important things about this matchup, if you're trying to deal with it directly, like we were talking, is to just actually do the attempts and do the attempts again and get that practice in. You're not gonna go from someone that has never attempted it to someone that is just goated in dealing with Pharah Mercy and counters Pharah Mercy on Genji instantly. You're going to have to try that again and again and again and again and again to understand all of the nuances to this matchup that can make Genji a viable counter to Pharah Mercy, right? If the map is correct, if you play well enough, if you're smart enough. But that's, like I said, something that you just have to play and get better and get better and get better and get more used to it. Now, the better way to deal with the matchup is to not deal with it whatsoever. Think about it. 5 members of the enemy team, right? 2 of those 5 members, 40% of the enemy team, is flying in the sky doing their own little thing. So if you just go ahead and with your team rush as 5 the enemy team below, the 3 enemies below, they might very easily crumble. And then from there you may get picked a little bit by the enemy team, either on the ground or the Pharah Mercy or both of them. But that is way better if you're trying to deal with the Pharah Mercy directly a lot of the times. Because then you have way better odds on a 5v3, and then the remaining people on your team can either sustain the Pharah Mercy, or after the enemy team is dead, then the Pharah Mercy alone isn't going to be able to do too much. You're gonna have all the resources to be able to deal with them. Not just gonna be a single Genji or a single hit scan trying to deal with them, right? Now, that can be done as a team, and I would recommend doing this type of callouts. If you can't deal with the Pharah Mercy directly, try to tell your team to just rush the people on the ground and take the 5v3. But sometimes you're not gonna get this type of coordination, right? So you might need to do something like realize what you can do on your own. Remember, the Mercy is in the sky pocketing the Pharah. That's what you want to do. So if you flank the enemy support, for example, who is there to peel the enemy support? Maybe their tank's playing something like D.Va, maybe the second DPS can try to do something, but a lot of the times the second support is going to be pretty sad unless they're playing a very specific support with a lot of survivability. And then you can try to focus them. And even if they have a lot of survivability, focusing them can be very good because you force those mobility cooldowns, those jail out of free cards that they have out, and then your team finishes them with you. Or you simply deny heals for the team, right? If you focus one of the supports and the other support is in the sky, who is healing the tank and the second DPS? They're not getting healed. Because the support is trying to live, one of the supports, right, the support on the ground is trying to live because you are constantly diving them. So they're probably not going to be able to do their job properly. And the Mercy is trying to pocket the Pharah in the sky. Now, it becomes a little bit more problematic if the targets in the ground are really hard to kill, all of them. Let's say Tracer as the second DPS, Bow as a tank, and maybe something like Kiriko or Lucio. I would say Kiriko is more realistic if we're gonna be playing Mercy. So it can be hard, but it's still valuable. Because it's still the same idea, right? They might be hard to kill, but you can force the cooldowns out. They're not gonna be getting as much peel. There's also your team on the ground. But you can, if you feel like it's not worth your time, like Ball, Tracer, Kiriko are such bad matchups for Genji that you might as well actually go for the Pharah Mercy as Genji. You might feel like that. There are situations that you can feel like that. But it's going to be a lot about your personal experience and how comfortable you are with each matchup and with each team composition. Both yours and enemy team. So there is a lot of knowledge that is going to be not just required, but also a lot of knowledge that is going to change the way that you personally deal with something that another player might deal with differently. And I wouldn't say that there is one exact play that is correct. It is dependent on the profile of each player, I would say. So I would say that those are your options. You can deal with it directly, you can deal with it indirectly. There are all of the nuances for each of them. And there's also the map that you have to consider and everything. So it is a really interesting theoretical matchup, and I hope that I was able to help with everything that I talked about here.